Good evening, it's 7:30. If you will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Read the announcement and call the roll.
November 13, 2018. Please be advised this meeting is being taped for audio and video broadcast. The meeting will also be closed captioned. It's important that everyone speak clearly into the microphones and only one person speak at a time. Assisted listening devices are available. Mr. Burnett.
Present.
Mr. Corsello.
Here.
Mr. Sacchinelli.
Here.
Ms. Smith. Here. Mr. Stern.
Here.
Ms. Melendez.
Here.
Mr. Ioannidis.
Here.
Mr. Dumas.
Here.
Mr. Sims. Mr. Kides.
Here.
Ms. Siegelbaum. Here. Mr. Hempstead.
Here.
Mr. Serenides.
Wow.
Almost. You're here.
Mr. Mrs. Ioannidis.
Mr. Igneri.
Here.
Mr. Livingston.
Here.
14 present. You have a quorum.
14 present, we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 23rd, 2018. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Igneri moves. Any corrections, omissions, deletions? Mr. Serenides.
No, I was waving to somebody in the crowd.
Waving.
Waving to somebody in the
Like
crowd.
this.
Being friendly.
Do me a favor, do not go to an auction.
Keep that in mind.
Seeing no corrections, deletions, or additions, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Two abstentions.
Oh, two abstentions, where?
Me and
Oh, Mr. Sacchinelli and
me.
Mr. Livingston abstained. Public participation?
I don't think there's anything.
Tell me to talk to the mic.
We turned these up before. Thank you. Nobody has signed to address the council. I don't think there's anybody out there that would be looking to address the council, so we will close public participation. Next item on the agenda, resignations and appointments. We have two resignations. Mr. Greg Brasher is resigning from the Zoning Board of Appeals as an alternate, and Mr. Andrew Conroy is resigning as an alternate on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I thank them both for their service. Appointments. Greg Brasher for a regular on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Mr. Kides moves it.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say, several years ago, Mr. Brasher approached me about getting more involved, and he looked through the various commissions and boards, and he really took a liking to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And since him being an alternate, I've heard only great things. He's engaged, he follows, he does his homework, so I'm very pleased now that to see him bumped up to a full regular member.
Thank you, Mr. Kides. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the appointment of Mr. Andrew Conroy to the Zoning Board of Appeals as a regular member. Do I have a motion? Mr. Hempstead.
Glad to see Andrew moving back up into his previous spot.
Mike.
Mike.
I'm glad to see Mr. Conroy is moving back up to what was his regular spot previously. I know he's very conscientious in what he does and takes everything very seriously at the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I know he has no best interest at heart. Good appointment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further discussion? I, too, would like to congratulate Mr. Conroy, as I sat in on several meetings when he chaired the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I thought he did a great job, and thank you for your willingness to continue and to volunteer your time.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is Mr. Chris Gavrilides for Zoning Board of Appeals alternate. Do I have a motion? Mr. Kaitis.
I guess I'll do it. I'm the Greek designee of points. I think we've been trying to get Mr. Gavrilides involved for several years now, I believe, Mr. Mayor. And after a lot of coaxing and asking, I'm very glad to see that you finally, I know you run several businesses in Norwalk, you have young children, but I really appreciate what you're doing here, and I know we're very lucky to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaitis. Further discussion? Mr. Sirenides.
Not all the Greeks are speaking. Mr. Chris, you're next. Get ready. I just want to add that I've known Chris for a very long time. He's a lifelong resident, always been very involved, businesses in the city. I'm happy to see him come up here and get involved even further.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? I, too, am very pleased. I know that Mr. Gavrilides runs several businesses here in Norwalk. He's a responsible business person and a lifelong resident. We're always glad when we see people step up, take an interest in their government, and making sure that we become the best that we can possibly be. So seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we have one more. Reappointments, Ms. Daisy Franklin to the Fair Housing Advisory Commission.
I'd like to...
Mr. Dumas.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that to re-elect Daisy Franklin for the Fair Housing Commission. I know that Daisy has done a good job here in the past, and I'd like to have her back again.
Thank you. Further discussion?
I'd like to echo.
Mr. Burnett.
I'd like to echo that motion in that Daisy is not only a local Norwalk advocate for housing, but also at the state level. She's involved on several state committees, and is always willing to speak up to improve housing across the Norwalk as well as the state. So I think her continued work would be very valuable.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I also echo the comments of Mr. Dumas and Mr. Burnett. Ms. Franklin has served the city of Norwalk very well for many, many years on various boards and commissions. I don't know where she finds the time to do it, but she does, and she does a really good job. She's an advocate for fair housing for people so that they can have, they can live in dignity and have good places to live. No further discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? So carries unanimously. Thank you. Yeah. We don't have the certificates to administer the oath of office this evening, but we will make sure that we take care of that very quickly. The city clerk will have that information, and you can come into the office, have the oath administered, and assume your duties. So, under Mayor's remarks, I just have a few. First of all, I want to congratulate both Councilman Sims and Councilman Stern on your recent elections to a different office. Thank you for your service to the Common Council, and wishing you well as you pursue your new elected position. Councilman Sims representing 140th up in Hartford, and Councilman Stern becoming the probate judge for Norwalk and Wilton. We wish you well. We trust that we're in good hands, and we look forward to working with you in the future. So congratulations, and we'll have a nice round of applause. Also, another feather in the cap of the Norwalk High School Marching Band. We are so proud. They became national champions at the City Field competition the other night with a score of over 95 points, which is absolutely amazing.
95.575.
95.575. Not that anybody's counting. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Your son is in the marching.
Drum major.
Drum major in a marching band.
Chaperone.
chaperone. And I know that the students, if you watch them over at Andrews Field, practicing all summer long, all day long, dedicating their blood, sweat, and tears to this process. And the parents who support them is really remarkable also. And their new uniforms look great.
No,
They don't have them yet?
not yet.
Okay, so they don't look great. But I did go over and watch them during Spirit Night when they showed off their new routine called Between the Keys. And I did go to the Cavalcade of Bands and watch them perform. Their choreography, it's just absolutely amazing to watch. 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, so disciplined and so spot on. I mean, they know exactly where they're supposed to be at all times. And it was just really, they have put Norwalk on the map. And they just keep bringing recognition to our community, recognition to themselves through the hard work of the staff, of the students, and of the parents. And we'll look forward very, very soon to honoring them here at a council meeting with a proclamation and just recognition that they totally, totally deserve. So congratulations to the Norwalk High School Marching Band. On the 19th at 7 p.m., a week from last night. You sure it's the 19th? You sure it's the 19th? I thought it was Tuesday night.
Monday the 19th.
Okay,
What he said.
but Monday the
Check the
19th, the annual Thanksgiving Interfaith Service will be held at Temple Bethel on East Avenue. And it's a wonderful ceremony where people of different faiths come together, have music and worship, and celebrate Thanksgiving, celebrate the fact that we live in an amazing country, celebrate all the wonderful things that we have to be thankful for. I go every year, except when there's a council meeting, and I think they might have changed it this year. But it's really just a very spiritual time. Anybody that can be there, I would recommend that you be there. You'll be absolutely amazed at what they do. The various choirs, then Rabbi Lifskin, Monsignor Walter Orlowski, and Father or Minister from the Rowayton Church, John Livingston. How did I not know that name?
You're looking at John
They
Livingston.
do a number, and they have such harmony. They're such talented individuals. You'll have a wonderful time. So if you can be there. You'll find out. You'll probably want to attend for other years after that as well. Also, Thursday, November 22nd, we will celebrate Thanksgiving Day across the nation. I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, peace. Stop down at the 98 South Main Street, where Mr. Dumas will have what he does every year. If you haven't been there again, stop down, give Mr. Dumas support for what he does. He feeds so many people from around the community, people that might not have a Thanksgiving dinner if it wasn't for him. Get out there early in the morning, you'll watch him deep frying turkeys out in the back. His wife and others will set up early in the morning. And how many people do you normally serve, Mr. Dumas?
Last year was 260, I think it was.
260 people had a wonderful, wonderful meal, sitting down, not only sitting down and having a wonderful meal, but able to interact, socialize, perhaps make new friends. And it's because Mr. Dumas has been doing this for how many years?
23.
23 years. And if you do 150, 160, 220 every year, the numbers speak for themselves. So please stop down and see Mr. Dumas. Give him support. He can always use help. And thank you.
Thank you.
That is all that I have. Mr. Kaides.
Just quickly before the consent calendar is read, I just wanted to make mention of the memorable experience I had at the Veterans Ceremony on Sunday. We had some very inspirational words by our mayor, also a veteran, and others, and so I just want to thank everyone that helped put that together, and those council members too who were in attendance.
I'd like to thank you for reminding me. I want to mention one thing. The keynote speaker, Jeff DeWitt, who is a 26-year veteran of the United States Air Force, brought to our attention, I think, a glaring inadequacy. He mentioned that we didn't have a liaison committee for veterans to come and find out what kinds of benefits they're entitled to and have a person there on a regular basis that might be able to help them help them guide them through if they're needing medical help, if they're needing social emotional help getting a mortgage or whatever. So Mr. DeWitt sat down next to me after he finished his comments, and I leaned over and I said, "You are now the chairperson of the liaison committee that I'm going to form." And he stood back up and said to the mic, "The mayor just hired me." But it's a volunteer thing, and he is excited about it. He's already invited 2 other people. We're going to be meeting next week. We're going to form the Veterans Liaison Committee so that veterans coming back into Norwalk and perhaps surrounding communities who might not know where they can get services will have a place to go. And hopefully we're going to have a weekly or probably every other week or monthly room where we'll have it available to the veterans to come. So thank you, Mr. Kites, for reminding me about.
Yeah,
So it's
he was a very motivating gentleman,
Yes.
to say the least. Okay, so Mr. Sims, you will be reading the consent calendar this evening, and just to say that the last item, number 4 under finance, is off consent.
All right. Item 7A1, authorize for discussion Allstate litigation claim assured Selden Williams against City of Norwalk, Kerma, claim number 0148573. Item 7A2, authorize to settle the claim Nancy Keegan versus City of Norwalk, et al. FBT CV 176065074-S. Those will be taken up in executive session. Item 7A1, rescind item number 7A2 on the Common Council agenda of October 9th, 2018, which read as follows. Authorizing Mayor Harry W. Rowland to enter an agreement with Land Tech Consultants, Inc. For the design services for Project 3860 West Rocks Middle School Athletic Field Design Services for a sum not to exceed $80,000. Account is noted. Item 7A2, new action authorization request. Authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rowland, to enter an agreement with Land Tech Consultants, Inc. for the design services for project number 3860 West Rocks Middle School Athletic Field Design Services for the sum not to exceed $80,000. The account is noted. Item 7B1 on the planning, approve the proposed capital budget facade improvement grant program guidelines revisions to allow for grant applicants to apply for temporary bridge funding in the amount not to exceed the amount of the award of the matching reimbursable grant and capped at $50,000 for a period not to exceed 6 months. Item 7C1 under Health, Welfare, and Public Safety, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rowland to approve and sign the revised Juvenile Review Board JRB agreement between the City of Norwalk and Town of Westport, previously approved on June 12, 2018. Westport will pay Norwalk on a per basis an amount of $1,500 per case for provisions of JRB programs and support services. Item 7D1 under Land Use and Building Management, authorize the Mayor Harry W. Rowland to execute an amendment to Construction Solutions Group LLC's contract to provide additional staffing for program management services for school construction projects in an amount not to exceed the following based on staffing needs. Fiscal year 2018-19, $87,276. Fiscal year 2019 to 2020, $141,438. And reimbursable expenses is $18,500. Funds are available in account number 091750105777C0585. Item 7E1 under Finance, accept and approve the reports of the Claims Committee dated November 8th, 2018. Item 7E2, for information purposes only, narrative on tax collection dated November 8th, 2018. Item 7E3, for information purposes only, monthly tax collectors report dated October 31st, 2018. And that is the consent calendar as mentioned, and I move for its adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. If there are no objections to the consent calendar as Mr. Sims read, I will now call for a vote. All in favor? Looks to be unanimous. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Kides. Mr. Burnett, item 7E4.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular item is an authorization for a special capital appropriation in the amount of $1 million to increase the available funds in the stormwater quality management project, the account as noted, and authorizing the issuance of $350,000 in general obligation bonds of the city to meet said appropriation. This eliminates $350,000 of unissued bond authorization of the Brook project, and that project is as noted. So I would like to move that item.
Mr. Burnett moves the item. Discussion?
Yes, we have with us today Bob Barron, who is our Chief Financial Officer, and also Chris Torrey, who's the Superintendent of Operations, to speak to the item. And this allocation appropriation is to bring about improvement towards our stormwater management system design, and also to dredge some of our known flooding problems. So they'll give more detail to this request.
I think I can speak to the financing part, which is pretty simple, and then Chris can speak to maybe why Keeler Brook was closed and how the $1 million is going to be spent. Keeler Brook was approved the project was approved in the fiscal year 12-13 for $1 million. And then we went to market and borrowed $650,000 against that project, leaving a remaining $350,000 authorized but yet to be issued. So when we closed Keeler Brook, and I think I put in my letter because of our inability to acquire some property, Chris can talk more specifics for that. But when we closed the Keeler Brook project, that $650,000 goes into our capital fund balance, and then the $350,000 authorized but unissued, the balance of the $1 million, it is eliminated. So our authorized but unissued amount goes down by $350,000. So now the request before you is a special capital appropriation. It follows the same 5 steps for approval. You're the 5th and final step, but the 4th step going before the Planning Commission, it was reviewed tonight. Chris was there at 7 o'clock. They took him out of order so he could be present, and they did in fact approve it. And so it's available for you to approve it. This request says we're asking for a special appropriation of $1 million to add to the stormwater account, but then an authorization for $350,000 for me to bond, because I don't need the full $1 million, right? Didn't we just put $650,000 into our capital fund balance? And so our authorized but unissued debt stays the exact same. We closed Keeler Brook, it goes down by $350,000. Hopefully tonight you'll approve my authorization to borrow $350,000 in support of this project. And so losing $350,000, adding $350,000. Our authorized but unissued debt stays the same, and we utilize the $650,000 we've already borrowed from the capital fund balance. So that's the entirety of the financing piece.
Mr. Torrey.
Thank you for letting me speak. The city, in June of 2018, we had what is the equivalent of a 500-year storm rain event And then again, we had a 100 and 200-year storm event in September of 2018 and also the first week of October 2018. The Keeler Brook project was originally slated to be $1 million $1 million of city funds and a grant through DEEP for the remaining funds. We were unable to complete the project in 2013. We spent 4 years trying to negotiate with some property owners to sell their property, and we could not come to terms. We gave the money back in 2017 to the state for the grant, and the project stayed dormant until now when it was closed.
Questions? Mr. Hempstead?
Is there a preliminary list of areas that you're looking at to tackle first as far as the design and evaluation?
Tell them about the meeting we had today.
Yes, there is a preliminary list. I'll start off by saying that the $1 million, if you guys approve it, will not be used for tidal flooding along Beach Road, Water Street. It's more inland flooding that affects, and I can give you our long-term projects that we've identified, which are Lloyd Road, Friendly Pond area, Assisi Way, Sallow Road, Surrey Drive, West Avenue, which includes the Arch Culvert, Clinton Avenue, Christie Street, Benedict, Ascension, North Taylor Avenue, Keeley Drive, behind the condos over there, Tea Kettle Place, Kettle Road, June Avenue area, Glendenning Street, Heather Lane, Fitch Street, Raymond Terrace. Some of the short-term things we're looking at are Williams Street, Kavanaugh Street, Stonecrop, East Rocks Road, Smith Street, and Margaret Street. Some of the major cleanings that we would have to contract out that we cannot do in-house that we've identified are Fountain Street, Scribner Avenue, Chatham Drive, Thorpe Lane, Harstrom Place, and Columbine Lane. Some other locations that we are monitoring and observing for pipe sizes and some infrastructure improvement work would be Rebel Lane, New Canaan Avenue, Strawberry Hill underneath the railroad bridge, again, Harstrom Place, and Glover Avenue.
But the $1 million is for capital funding, not maintenance work, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If you could at some point at least provide that to the council, it would be nice to have.
Yeah, their plan is to identify the areas that have the most serious flooding issues and prioritizing each of those in order. There's also a situation where some people who are experiencing flooding, it's not the city's infrastructure that's causing the problem. It's on their own property and so forth. And we'll have to tell them that as well, that it's their responsibility to fix those issues. But I had a meeting with Chris and Lisa Burns this morning directing this issue and how we're going to plan it out for the future. But there are serious issues. Don't forget, our infrastructure in some areas are over 100 years old and woefully inadequate to accommodate the amount of rain we've been getting lately. So this is going to be an ongoing project, probably for many years because it's been ignored for many years.
I don't disagree. I think it's what he listed out tonight was kind of what we were looking for the other evening. If we can just communicate that,
yes,
so the council people here and yourself can communicate the different areas when they come up, because some of those streets have been on there a long time.
Right.
That have had supposedly temporary solutions, but long-term still haven't been addressed, and we've been told some of them may have difficulty being addressed because of where it's got to drain to. It'd be kind of nice to get the listeners and staff.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, believe me.
I know. Those trains are older than us, Derek.
Mr. Cadiz?
It would have been easy just to say, okay, let's just ignore it, hope for the best, fingers crossed, we're not going to have another 200-year storm for years to come. But I'm very happy to see that we're actually being proactive and we're actually addressing this rather than ignore it like it's been for a very long time. Because as you know, Mr. Torrey, the district in which I represent floods on a continuous basis. They're showing me our articles from 1985 that these areas have been flooding, and we're finally addressing them, which I'm happy to see.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion as presented? Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Before the next motion from Mr. Hempstead or Mr. Igneri, I did want to say congratulations and thank you to Mr. Conroy and Mr. Gavrilides. Congratulations for your appointment.
Motion to adjourn.
I hear an echo. Mr. Hempstead has made a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
He always gets caught.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
George.
Do you want to drink?